Hey you guys, today I'm so excited to show you how I built this beautiful walnut box over here. As you can see, all walnut. I chose this walnut because it had this sapwood, so I thought it would be a cool element for the bottom. And then on the top for the lid, I made this really cool 3D pattern over here. And I made it from these tiny pieces that I cut. This is walnut, hard maple, and aromatic cedar. To give you a size so you can see, this is how tiny these pieces are. It took forever to glue and a lot of patience, but it was well worth it. And so the box is walnut. The lid is aromatic cedar, hard maple, and walnut. The bottom is sitting on a rabbet, so it sticks out a little bit. That gives it a little bit of shadow line, and I think that gives it a nice design element. And then the lid is sitting on a liner. This is the inside of the box. Like I said, if you see any shiny parts like here, that's just because the oil I just put on it 2 minutes ago, it's still wet. So it has a lining. The lining is hard maple. And then there's the lid. The lid just sits right up like that. And I think that this is super cute. Without any further ado, let's get right into it and I'll show you how I build this. So I'll be making my box from this walnut. I picked this walnut because it has this beautiful sapwood on the edge. So I'm going to use that as a design element. And first thing first, before I cut this to the height of the box, I will sand it because it's so much easier to sand it now versus that, when it's into tiny pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it just a quick sand and then we'll cut it to size. All right, now I'm going to cut a strip of this wood and I'm going to cut it at 3 inches and 3/4. I think that should give me a nice size. So 3 inches and 3/4 on the table saw will rip a strip off. One strip should be enough for our whole box. Now it's time to cut our pieces for the box. I'll be using the miter saw, and the first thing I will do is change this to a 45-degree angle. And the first cut, we need to just cut the edge to get it to a 45-degree. And to ensure my board will not move as I cut it, I'm just going to clamp it. Now I put a setup block here, a stop block, so I get about a little bit over 7 inches for the long sides. Maybe that's a little bit too long. Let's see. Just a little bit more in. And then we'll clamp it, and those will be our long sides. So this will be my long piece, but now I need to cut a short piece because if I cut another long piece, then the grain is not going to continue. And I'm not going to get a continuously grain all around the 4 sides. For that, you will have to book match a piece of wood, but we will get at least 3 sides. So we'll cut the shorter piece now. And what I did is just I took another piece of wood that I'm going to put right here next to this one. And this is going to give me repeatable cuts, because I can put this here, cut the short side, then remove it, do the long side again, and then put this back and cut another short side. So. Now here are my pieces. They're gonna go something like this. And so I have a short, long, short, long. And now what I need to do at the table saw, I'm going to make a groove on the top of each piece. And this groove is going to accept this panel. This is going to be my lid, but it's going to be encapsulated into the top. So I'll make a groove to fit this top. This top I made it by cutting on the laser machine a million of these tiny, tiny little diamond shapes. And really, there's no way to cut such a small pieces on your table saw or any other tool than laser. So I cut some from walnut, some from aromatic cedar, and some from hard maple. And then I put them all together and I glue them on the back of a 1/8 inch Baltic birch plywood. So this is going to become my top. So at the table saw, we'll make the groove at the top to accept that beautiful, colorful lid. And then on the bottom, I am going to make a rabbet at the table saw. And because on the rabbet, I'll be sitting a solid piece of wood that will be just a little bit wider than the rabbet. That way, that will be the bottom. And because the solid wood, it will stick out a little bit, that will create kind of like fit. We will give it a little shadow line. And I think that will just add a little bit of interest. So let's go to the table saw. When I do the rabbet, you will see I'll put the sacrificial fence on my table saw, and that's the way I will do it. Normally, when I do this kind of grooves or rabbets, I would use a flat tooth table saw blade. But for this one, it's not so important. So I'm just gonna keep my thin strip blade and I'll keep moving it. I'll pass it by once, then I move it a little bit and pass it again until it accepts my panel. And I'll do kind of the same thing with the rabbet. So let's go do that. You guys saw me cut this to size, and yes, I do not like to measure. I just like to nibble at it until it fits. I did the same thing with the bottom. And for the bottom now, I'm just gonna quickly sand just a little bit and soften the edges, because once it's glued in, it's gonna be a lot harder to get to it. So there you go. The bottom is going to sit like this, and then you see this is going to be a shadow line. So on the box, when it sits on a table, you can see that shadow line. It just almost looks like feet. I really like that look. So this should fit in there. Now it's time to do the glue up. And this is gonna help a lot with the gluing. Now we have to make sure that the rabbets are pointed down. So it's going to go like this. Something like that. Now to glue this, I'll be using a blue tape. Everything lines up. And let's see. Let's do another dry fit just to make sure this guy fits in. And it does. I think what I want to do, now that I'm looking at it, I think I want to soften a little bit the edges on the outside here, because once I glue those, then I won't be able to get there. So let's do that quickly. I'm just going to take my 220. Now for this one, I wasn't going to add any glue, but I think I'll just add some just on one side to keep it in place. Now some of my tape came off. That's okay, I'll put new tape and make sure all these joints are tight. I'm gonna take some wet wipes so I can clean up the squeeze out. I like this Crocodile Original wet wipes. They never dry out, and it's true, they never really do. And plus I use them so fast, but I absolutely love those. So new tapes on every corner. All four corners look good, and now I will also glue in the bottom. That's also gonna keep it square. So let's do that. First, let's see if there's any glue that I need to squeeze out from the inside. This is the time to do it. All right. Oh man, it looks like I chipped it a little bit over here. I don't know how I did that, and I don't know how I'm going to fix it. But for now, it's nothing else I can do. We just have to let it dry, and then we'll go from there. Hey you guys, it's been about 2 hours maybe, and here is our box. I took the blue tape off. That's the lid part. There's the bottom. You see the little reveal over there, the shadow line. The grain, it looks like it's continuous. It looks nice. Now, I thought about doing splines, and I don't know, that might be a little bit too much, having this grain with the, sapwood and then the busy top. I feel like if I add spline, maybe a little bit too much. I don't know. Maybe we'll keep the splines for a different video. We'll make a different box and do splines. But now I need to cut the top off. And I could do this at the table saw, or I could do it on the bandsaw. The problem is the bandsaw right now, I have a 3/16 blade in it because, well, I was working on a bandsaw box. So that's not the best blade for cutting this. I would have liked to have like a 1/2-inch blade. So I'm not sure which one to do. It's the safest way is to do it on the bandsaw. You know what? We'll do it on the bandsaw. We'll take the risk. We'll go with that skinny blade, even though it's not ideal for this. We'll see what we get. Now that was a very clean cut. I'm happy I decided to do it on the bandsaw. As you can see, we barely have any saw marks. So now I'm just gonna sand it on this sandpaper that I have here right on top of this piece of plywood, just to make sure we eliminate all those saw marks, and then we'll go on into making a liner for the box so the lid has something to fit onto. I gave the box a little bit of sanding. I'm still gonna soften the edges a little bit, but now it's looking great. And what I need to do now is to make the lining. And for lining, I can either put lining on the lid or I can put the lining on the box. The lid is pretty shallow, so I think that will be not the best choice to do the lining on the lid. So I'm going to do it on the box. For the lining, I will be using hard maple, and I picked this one because it has a lot of grain pattern, so I think it's gonna look cool. And I measured inside the box, and I think I need almost 3 inches tall. So I'll cut a strip of almost 3 inches tall, and we'll see what it gets us. So I cut the lining. It's just kind of friction fit in here. I could have done it maybe even a little bit tighter, but because it's not as tight as I would have liked, I think I am going to glue it in place. So I'm gonna use 2 different glues. I use CA glue and regular glue, and I don't need too much glue, you know, just a little bit to hold it in place. So I will start with this one. Maybe I should put the glue on the box, that way when I slide it in, it doesn't squeeze outside onto the walnut. Let's try that. Very nice. All right, you guys, box is ready, and we are ready to apply the finish. It's looking great. Let me just give it a little bit of sanding right here. And this is what the box looks like. It's ready for finish. I gave it all the final sanding. This is the inside. And let's apply the finish. For the finish, I'll keep it simple. I'll just use this furniture walrus oil. Very easy to apply, so let's do that right now. I cannot wait to see the colors on this lid coming up. Look at that. I hope you can see it on camera. Super, super exciting.